Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in film, Devin, and today we're going to be giving our thoughts and opinions on the directorial debut of the Zoe Kravitz and her first film titled Blink Twice. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. And you can send us a text message by clicking on the show notes of this episode or any of our other episodes. You click the link that says send us a text message, and it'll generate a text message for you to send to us, and we will receive that on the back end of our podcast website. So, Devin, I have, speaking of, since this is like a thriller type film, I watched a certain movie over the weekend.
Did you?
I watched The Long Legs.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta say, I think it was overhyped a little bit. I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was never going to live up to the crazy things people were saying.
Yeah, because, I just kept hearing all these wild things. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, the very beginning of the movie and the very ending is so crazy. And I'm like, it was a pretty good jump scare. I'm not going to lie. It got me during the beginning, but the ending was, I think, a little bit more interesting. But yeah, I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd because it is good original horror. I think that we need more films like that for sure. But I don't think it was as scary as what people were building it up to be.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage was definitely a perfect little weirdo. It's also kind of hard to get scared by him because you just know it's Nicolas Cage underneath all that makeup.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't know he really had it in him. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw Pig, but that's another movie that really showcases his acting chops. But
yeah, he's one of the best.
Yeah, it was weird because when I saw him in this movie, I just kept thinking of Renfield, that movie.
Yeah,
and that's basically what it felt like for
they
me.
they both enjoy the devil. So those characters, Renfield, vampire, Dracula, and Longlegs.
So yeah, it was definitely some Alan Wake 2 vibes in there for sure. More so like the detective work.
Yeah, she was amazing as always.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, she was incredible. But yeah, that's what I've actually forgot to mention the other day. I meant to text you and be like, oh yeah, I watched Long Legs. I'm like, no, I'm going to save it for that.
Were you singing along with Longlegs and those weird songs he was doing?
I was not, but he had a pretty good voice. You could have had a nice little karaoke career or something, made it on America's Got Talent or American Idol back in the day. But a really good twist in that movie for sure. I will say, I was like, oh, was not expecting that. But yeah, that was pretty good. But outside of watching the industry and playing God of War, have you gone back and watched any other movies? Have you started watching the original Beetlejuice? That's coming up pretty fast.
Yeah, I think it's going to be next on the docket. Gotta rewatch that one. It's been a while, I think.
Same. A very long time. Very, very long time for both of us, it seems. But yeah, Long Legs, it was pretty good.
I was also considering doing a double feature with Blink Twice. I was like, should I see The Crow afterwards? Because it lined up on the show times.
Uh-oh.
But then I was like, I opened up Twitter and I searched The Crow. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go home.
I was pretty disappointed when I saw those.
It started with like a 6%, I think.
Yeah, it was rough, man. I was like, oh, this just blows because I know people have been wanting to see it, and it's just, I don't know. I think it's still at a 6%. Let me check. Oh, it's at a 19% right now.
Oh, it's going up.
For the critic side, 19% of critics liked it with 83 reviews. 66% on the audience side with 250 plus verified ratings. I don't know what verified ratings means, but I'm like, are any audience score ratings ever verified? Like, because I feel like, you know, people can just review bomb something. But I thought about it as well, and I don't know. It just didn't grab me. Didn't grab me at all. And yeah, I don't know. I think we made the right choice.
Yeah.
Maybe when it hits streaming, I'll pop it on. It seems like a cool streaming movie, but do I want to go to the movies to see that? Probably not. Probably not, but I digress. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to be giving our spoiler-free review of Blink Twice. This is a mystery psychological thriller. We want people to watch this film and just enjoy it for what it is, because there's a lot of great twists and turns within this movie. I didn't really know too much about it outside of seeing the trailer, and I was like, oh, from the mind of Zoe Kravitz. I was like, oh. So, you know, she's making her own movie, and it's her directorial debut, and we're going to talk about it right now. So without further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to Blink Twice.
Something horrible is about to happen.
What?
When things are good, that's when the bad stuff happens.
Why would you think that?
Right? What day is it?
I don't know.
When are we leaving?
Whenever you want.
That's not an answer.
Are you having a good time?
Yes.
Good.
Boop.
And we are back with our spoiler-free review of Blink Twice. This film is directed by Zoe Kravitz and written by Zoe Kravitz and E.T. Feigenbaum, and stars Naomi Ackie, Channing Tatum, and Aaliyah Shawkat, and Christian Slater's in this movie as well. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty sweet. And Simon Rex, he's also in this movie. So
Yeah, great cast.
yeah, a great cast. And the synopsis is as follows, or the story is as follows, I should say. When tech billionaire Slater King meets cocktail waitress Frida at his fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation on his private island. As strange things start to happen, Frida questions her reality. So, as I mentioned, this is a full-blown psychological thriller mystery. And I will say kudos to Zoe Kravitz for putting that viewer discretion at the very beginning of the film. So there are a lot of strong scenes that happen, a lot of disturbing scenes, I should say, that happens in this movie. So there is that viewer discretion advised at the very beginning of this film. It's like baked into like the actual editing of the movie. It's not like something that AMC or Regal, like, you know, with their own thing. It's like, you know, once and hopefully if this releases on Blu-ray, like that'll still be there for sure. But, you know, it's not a movie for the faint of heart. It has that dark comedy aspect, the psychological thriller, all that jazz. So, man, oh man, where to begin? Devin, what are your thoughts of this movie? Because I think we saw this on the same day, I think. But I think you went to see it before I did. So
Yeah, it was Thursday night.
give me your thoughts, bro Chacho.
Yeah, going into this one, didn't really know what to expect. I think I might have seen the first trailer that came out at some point. Just try to watch as few trailers as possible nowadays. Just kind of avoid it. It's just not really worth having the movie spoiled. But it was funny because as I was walking in to watch this movie, the trailer for it was playing during the previews. So I was like, is this the wrong theater? So I walked out and looked up and saw that it still said Blink Twice. So I went back in and it was Blink Twice. So
Yeah.
that's a first. They played a preview for Blink Twice during Blink Twice.
That's happened to me before, actually, with a movie. But sorry, continue.
So yeah, going into this one, it definitely has like those Knives Out vibes where it's a bit of a murder mystery with some comedic beats throughout and a great ensemble cast that's all just kind of having fun on an island together, it seems like. I love the cast. My love affair with Adria Arjona continues to grow ever since seeing Hitman. She's definitely been popping up here and there, and she's been killing it lately. Channing Tatum as the tech billionaire. Definitely an interesting character. And he's got some interesting friends. You mentioned Simon Rex, Christian Slater. Haley Joel Osment is in there. He's having fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I would say for the most part it works. Like there are some twists and turns that you don't really see coming, but I think the main issue is that there's like a lot of like key dangling. Like, oh, look at this item. This is important. You have to look at this. Like it feels like the movie does that a bit too much, where there's just key items throughout the movie that are zoomed in and really focused on, and it's like, okay, that's going to be important later, and then it ends up being important later.
Yeah.
So it just kind of takes away a bit of the mystery and a bit of the surprise. But overall, I do think it works as just kind of a psychological thriller. Channing Tatum, I do think his character looks weird because of the veneers he's got on for his teeth. I don't really know if he sells like the psychological weirdo character,
Or just like a villain type.
yeah. It doesn't really work. He's more so just playing his normal Channing Tatum character, which is like goofy and comedic leaning. So I don't really know how much it works for a psychological thriller. He didn't really show too much of that character. So it didn't really work for me. I do enjoy Channing Tatum, of course, but it just didn't really work for a psychological thriller. And then the main character, played by Naomi Ackie, I think she did a fine job. It just didn't really sell as like the main protagonist. That's why I think when Adria Arjona's character comes in, Sarah, and they have a nice dynamic between those two, I think that's when the movie's at its strongest, when they're working together.
So yeah, I definitely agree. For this being Zoe Kravitz's first directorial debut, like her number one film, or like the only film that she's directed as so far, I think for a directorial debut, I think this is a really solid movie. You know, this was already 10 times better than Don't Worry, Darling, because, you know, it is kind of that same premise of, you know, there's people in like an area, things seem normal but not quite, and you're trying to unravel the mystery of what's going on. And I will say the premise of this film, like what you find out, like, again, no spoilers, but, you know, as you are watching the movie, the themes of like selective memory and start to play like a really big role, like selective memory and just memory in general, where, you know, are you having a good time type of situation, and the premise of trauma almost and control for sure. Because like I would say that this movie is about control, is like the main theme of this film, and that kind of streams into certain aspects of
Repressed memories.
repressed memories, and having the ability to kind of just go with the flow and not really ask any questions. And it also gives me a little bit of like the Glass Onion, like a Knives Out vibe almost, because it just seems like the same setting where, you know, they're all out by the pool. It is that star-studded cast of everyone kind of just bouncing off each other when it came to the dialogue. I did chuckle quite a few times within this movie.
Yeah, there's definitely a few good jokes here and there.
Definitely. And, you know, Channing Tatum being Channing Tatum, he definitely made me laugh a few times. And I don't know if it was just, you know, seeing him in Deadpool and Wolverine, but like, he's always been like that funny kind of actor.
Yeah, I just don't know if Sirius is, I don't know if he's done it, or if he, I'm gonna look up his filmography, but he hasn't really ever done a serious role. This one isn't completely serious, but I think it would have been better if it was more serious.
Right. And you know, you have characters such as Christian Slater playing as Vic, and Simon Rex playing as Cody, and of course Haley Joel Osment playing as Tom, and a few others in there as well. But I do agree with you when it came to the main character of Naomi Ackie. I think she does a great job. So outside of Adria Arjona playing as Sarah, you have Naomi Ackie playing as Frida and her best friend, Jess, who was played by Aaliyah Shawkat. And I think I would have liked to see more of Aaliyah's character do just like a little bit more in this movie before like events start to occur, if that makes any sense. Because I felt like she was a pretty good
She was a fun character. Didn't really get enough of.
Yeah, not as much as I would have liked, but this is a, like you said, I don't want to say that this movie is smarter than what it thinks, but it really does try to, and like literally in the trailer it says, oh, like blink twice if I'm in trouble, and then the guy literally blinks twice, and it's like, oh, okay, like there's a lot of on the nose clues for this movie. But Devin, without giving anything away, were you able to figure out like what was going on?
It felt pretty obvious, like
the Red Rabbit situation.
Yeah, it felt pretty obvious, like what was happening to the people.
Yeah,
we just didn't really know the reasoning for it, and then the reasoning, it was kind of just really straightforward, like surprisingly straightforward. Like, they're just doing like the bare minimum you would think.
That is true. And I think when it comes to movies like this, I feel like it's harder and harder to reveal like a good twist. So it's more of people are going to figure it out as the movie goes along, but it's more of just, okay, now I'm waiting for the reasoning. For M. Night Shyamalan movie, you usually go there for the big twists. Within his recent movies, there hasn't been like very big twists, but he's been doing different things. But something like this, I kind of figured out what was happening, but I wasn't entirely sure. And of course, if you've seen the trailer, you know that Frida's best friend, Jess, again played by Aaliyah Shawkat, she goes missing. So it's like there was that aspect. I didn't know what was happening. And then when it was revealed, I was like, oh, okay. And then, that's it. And then they just kind of go on with the rest of the movie. And it's, I don't know. It's not a bad film. I think that it does a lot of things right. With the projection design, it was fantastic. I thought the writing was very sharp.
I thought the sound design was really good too. Like the emphasis on certain items and certain noises that were being made. They were like their own jump scares.
For sure. I think that this serves more of a movie that, if someone came up to you, was like, hey, like I really want to get into like psychological thrillers. I feel like this is a movie that you can show them as like entry level psychological thriller, because it doesn't do anything necessarily different. I think the message of the movie is stronger than the reveal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because the reveal just feels kind of obvious once you get there.
But like you said, the reasoning and the messaging, that's where I think the movie shines. It's these rich people kind of just on their island having a good time. You have Channing Tatum's character, played his name is Slater, and he like owns this big tech company, and he just hey, let's invite a couple of friends, a couple of gals from the gala, and just see where the next few days takes us. And I will say, once it started ramping up, it was pretty good towards the end for sure. But I did enjoy it. I can't say it was like the best psychological thriller that I've seen, but it was leagues better than Don't Worry, Darling, because that was ridiculous. But again, I feel like this movie, it feels more like Glass Onion to me for some reason, and I don't know.
It definitely
why.
has the Knives Out vibes, just the cast and the setting and solving a mystery.
Right, we get an ensemble cast like this every so often. And I wonder, because I do want to see this again, because, after you've seen all the clues and whatnot, I want to, I feel like this is a movie that you can see twice, much like Scream, where it's like, okay, the first time that you ever watch like the first Scream, and you're like, okay, like who are the killers? And then, it's revealed to you who the killers are. And then when you rewatch it every other time, you try to figure out which ghost face was who at what certain time. You know what I mean? So I feel like this movie can get better on a rewatch. Not saying that it warrants a rewatch, like as in, like I need to watch again because I didn't understand it. I understood it like first viewing altogether, but I want to go back and see it with other people who haven't seen it so that I can kind of see their reaction and I can dissect the movie a little bit more of, there might have been some clues that are kind of like in your face that I wasn't maybe aware of, or just to see like, oh, okay. So like when this character said this, that's when that happened. Okay. That's pretty, clever and whatnot. But it was a great time overall. I'm glad we got this movie. Like, I don't think this movie like, sucks or stinks or anything of the matter. I love it how we have actors. We're seeing a lot of actors out there, with between Zoe Kravitz and Dev Patel, doing their directorial debuts and them both being in theaters. And I think that they're strong films, but your first film ever is not going to be like, the greatest film of all time or like, one of the best of the year. But I would say that this is something that everyone should go watch because I think it's very provocative. It can be daring at times. It does get your minds wondering. And when it came to a few of the edits, I like the title sequence where like literally if you blink, literally if you blink,
blinks.
you'll miss it. Yeah, blink twice. But yeah, I think it's weirdly edited, but I feel like that is part of the shtick of this movie, if that makes sense. Like, because there are gaps in time where you don't know what happens, and then later on it is revealed of certain things.
Yeah, it does get a bit repetitive, but it's kind of part of the whole story.
For sure. So yeah, we kind of touched on Channing Tatum being like almost like a antagonist villain. Out of the group, who was your favorite character that you connected to the most?
I mean, it's got to be Sarah, played by Adria. She definitely brought the most energy, I would say, and was definitely an interesting character. She was apparently like a reality show contestant on Sexy Survivor, I think they called it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny how you mention that. So a little bit of Blink Twice trivia here. I actually found a few interesting tidbits here on IMDb. And it's not a whole lot, and none of these are spoilers, of course. So when Zoe Kravitz started writing Blink Twice, she had it underneath a different name, a different original working title, which is a working title, not like a different name, but it was titled Pussy Island in 2017.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So that's actually pretty hilarious. And as I mentioned earlier, there is that trigger warning. So on August 21st, and happens 2 days prior to its release, Amazon MGM, because this is produced by or underneath the Amazon MGM studio, they did issue that trigger warning. So it was 2 days before release, they issued a trigger warning across all their social media accounts. The warning is which is shown before the U.S. theatrical release and states the following: Blink Twice is a psychological thriller about the abuse of power. While it is a fictionalized movie, it contains mature themes and depictions of violence, including sexual violence. So that is literally verbatim what it says during the trigger warning, at least for the U.S. release. I'm not sure how it is everywhere else, but it looks like they started filming this also. Production occurring in Mexico. It started filming on June 23rd, 2022.
Yeah, I didn't quite have that orange Mexican tint, that sepia. But they never said the location of the island either. I don't think so. It was just kind of vague.
Yeah, they were very vague, and I'm not sure if that was just on purpose or if it really even mattered because, yeah, Slater was like, hey, like you guys come out to my private island. He said I bought in islands. I think he might have mentioned of the general location where it was at, but I can't remember exactly. But yeah, those are just a few bits of trivia for this film. Not a lot to go on, to be completely honest. It's a pretty like not original. It's an original film, like 1000%. But it does share similarities with other like psychological thrillers where there's this big mystery to uncover and you don't know what it is, and then I don't know. I think what I liked about this movie is that I wasn't like waiting around for the reveal because I was like genuinely curious to see like how Zoe Kravitz was going to throw in these red herrings of what was happening. But once you get to like a certain part, I was like, I think it's something dealing with this, but you didn't really know the reasoning as to why and whatnot. But yeah, definitely a great film. How did your theater react to this movie?
It was pretty mild. Like there were only a handful of people in the theater. It was a Thursday night showing. Kind of I think it was an under the radar movie. Like I don't know how many people have heard of this one.
I think you're right. Yeah, because my mom actually asked me. She was like, I want to see that movie that Zoe Kravitz is doing. I was like, oh, Blink Twice, and I think she's going to go see it. But I definitely think more people should go see it. I don't know what the box office is, and it didn't really look too much into it. But I'm hoping that it gets a good return. And I hope that she makes more films. And I think this is a solid entry for like her first movie. And
looks like the budget was around 20 million, and the gross so far worldwide is at 14 million.
Okay, nice. Yeah, hopefully it'll get there. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna outperform The Crow for sure.
I'm actually surprised the budget was that high. I mean, and there are definitely some celebrities in here, but.
Probably because they filmed on location is my guess. Because I do like despite contrary to popular belief, like I think more people think that shooting in a studio is more expensive because of the VFX. I think it's actually the other way around, where it's like because if people want to shoot on location, you got to shell out the money, like because they got to shut stuff down depending on where it's at. Things like that. So I think that might be the reason why the budget's so high, outside of course, the ensemble cast. But let's get into our final thoughts and ratings here, Devin. What are your final thoughts and ratings for Blink Twice?
Yeah, final thoughts. I think overall it's definitely a fun ride. I enjoy the cast and the characters that they're playing, just kind of the vibes they're all going for. Just kind of seems like they're all having fun, and I think that's really cool. It is interesting that Channing Tatum and Zoe Kravitz are married. Like, I feel like it came out of nowhere. Like they just kind of happened. So that's definitely an interesting dynamic there with the director and the lead actor. I think my biggest issue is the two leads in Naomi Ackie and Channing Tatum. They just didn't really sell it for me for their characters. It just kind of took me out of the movie. Whereas Channing Tatum, he's more of the goofy, funny character, and he's kind of doing the same thing, but he's supposed to be more menacing and evil, I guess. But it just doesn't really come off like that. I do think there's some good jokes throughout, and there's some very interesting, like you mentioned, there's some interesting edits, and I really like the sound editing as well. I think they did a good job of that to make it more of a scary, like thriller type of vibe throughout when it was needed. So I'd say as a score goes, I'd probably give it around like a 65. Like it definitely has his positives, but I think there's definitely some work to do as well. Yeah.
For me, like I mentioned, I really did enjoy this. I do want to watch it again. I'm assuming this is going to hit it's either going to be Amazon Prime Video or MGM Plus as a
Nobody has MGM Plus. Come on.
See, yeah, I know. That's gonna be the crappy part. If it goes to MGM Plus, then we're all screwed. But yeah, like Devin said, there's a lot of great ideas here, and overall, I think it does work as a movie. But I don't know if I think it's really just boiling down to the chemistry between Channing Tatum and Naomi Ackie as well. I think Naomi Ackie did a good job, but I think there are other performances that outshine hers. Of course, with Adria playing as Sarah and her best friend Jess, who is played by Aaliyah Shawkat as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a great movie to kind of just. It's one of those movies where you can kind of like have like a movie night with everyone where, everyone's brain's working, a little bit to try to figure out what's going on. But again, there is that trigger warning at the beginning of this movie. So definitely take this into consideration if this film is for you or if it isn't, just for that solely. But I hope that this movie at least makes its money back. As far as my rating, I would give it like a solid like 70 out of 100, because in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to the editing, the sound design, the production design, filming on location, it looks like a great movie. And I love it in all those aspects. It's just, I actually feel like she could have gone like a little bit deeper with this, I think is what my issue is. It's more on the shallow end. Like we mentioned, this is a movie that is about power and about like repressed memories, and having that trigger warning at the beginning is really great though. But the abuse of power, I should say, is what it's really about. But I really feel like she could have dug like a lot deeper, like with this kind of movie for sure. But it's supposed to be like the cutesy kind of like are you having a good time kind of thing, and I think people should watch it 1,000%. So I would give it a 70 out of 100. And Devin, you said 65, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, 65 out of 100 from Devin, 70 out of 100 from myself. So the official podcast score for this film is going to be a 67.5 out of 100, which is still technically fresh concerning Rotten Tomatoes. It's really anything under 60. So that's still a fresh movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. No movie is without its flaws. It's just, personally, I wish they could have gone a little bit deeper, and maybe having someone outside of Channing Tatum and it's for like the lead antagonist, and maybe just I think it really came down to like the chemistry between Naomi Ackie and Channing Tatum for sure, outside of just wanting them to go a little bit deeper. But with all that said, that does conclude today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice, and make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a fellow movie lover, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love for the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. And now let's take a sneak peek of what's coming up next on the show. We're going to be covering movies such as Afraid. So it's titled Afraid, but it's like Afraid and then like AI is in like capital letters. So it's like Afraid. I don't really know how you want to pronounce that, but it's called Afraid, and it's like an AI horror movie from Blumhouse. We're also going to be covering Beetlejuice as well. So those are two movies you can definitely keep a look out. And as far as new review releases, you can also look out for our Umbrella Academy season 4 review that we'll be releasing this week as well. And as far as episodes that are out now that you can listen to our Alien Romulus review, as well as our Cuckoo review and Borderlands and Trap. We've been covering a lot of crazy horror movies lately. And this one's like another, well, mystery thriller, but between Trap, I mean, Borderlands was horrific.
For other reasons.
What's up?
For other reasons, yeah.
Yeah, for other reasons. And Cuckoo, another horror movie, and Alien Romulus for sure. It's been a great time for horror. Absolutely. But with all that said, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and stay connected with us by following us on Twitter and Instagram, all that social media garbage for the latest updates. That was Devin, and I'm Christian, signing off. And remember, life is like a movie. So go out there and make it a blockbuster.
Peace.